Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Hawg Talk podcast, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios, part of the Believe in Buzz Radio Network, where you can hear us each week on 106.7 Buzz 2 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I am Porter Hayes. Alongside me, as always, is Adam Hall. And on tonight's show, we'll be talking fall scrimmages, coaching names that have been thrown into the hat, and then at 6:35, we will have Kyle Sutherland of Hawg Beat join us to talk about what he and his staff has seen from fall camp. But before we get started, it is almost that time of year. And if you're like us, Saturdays are for the Hogs and Sundays are for the NFL. And with that FanDuel, you can bet like a pro. Whether you're stacking a game parlay on college or sweating out a last-minute field goal in NFL, FanDuel puts the power in your hands with live odds, quick bets, and easy cash outs. New customers even score bets just for signing up. So if you call the Hogs or ride or die with your favorite NFL team, make every down count. Bet college, bet pro, bet FanDuel. Adam, I almost feel bad for the man, sitting head coach, watching other names that people wish that would take his job. But we've heard another name, and it's weird how the red tie gets thrown into this name. But John Gruden's name has been thrown into the hat, per se. A couple weeks ago, we went off about Saban, but now it's John Gruden. And I'm honestly surprised on how many people are all about it. But I want to ask you this question before you give your take on thoughts. Is Arkansas fans, majority of the fans, just wanting a new coach that bad that any kind of hot, sexy name they're going to jump all over? Or do you really think they would take him as the head coach?
I think you're split. I think that there are those that just want to change. I think there are those that hear the name, know his, the coaching record, Super Bowl. And at the same time, has always had good things to say about Arkansas. Somebody that's still relevant in the world of football, is in the limelight a lot with Barstool Sports and everything that he has, but it's wishful thinking at this point. I feel like on a lot of he's not a college coach. I think that's the easiest way to put it. He's not a college coach. I don't think you entice him enough to come back to coaching. And that's something that, I think it's just some of us are so enamored by the thought of somebody that big of a personality and coaching respect that they do have. I think that overshadows a lot of judgment.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to happen. And I don't think in any world it would happen.
And he's 61 years old, Saban 73. But when you look at, his coaching career, I mean, yes, he won a Super Bowl back in 2002. There's been times where he's went 9-7, 8-8, but outside of, let's go 2005. It's been since 2005 since he's won more than 10 games. And mind you, this is the NFL with more games. So 2018, 4-12. He hasn't coached since 21. He is campaigning so hard to get back in the NFL or the college coaching. And Arkansas could be an easy target. How many times has Arkansas burned themselves by just going after these people, giving extensions, finding somebody just to come here, John L. Smith, to get a paycheck? He admitted that this was retirement money. And then you have a guy like Gruden. It's going to be another money grab. I can go to Arkansas and make an easy $5-6 million. If it don't work out, dude, I was opening boxes of schools sending me their merch. He works for Barstool. You don't think he would not easily he would gladly come to Arkansas? I don't think it would work out. Not in this environment. We talked about the Saban stuff and, how he, of course, we get caught up in what he did in college and, man, what that could do for the University of Arkansas. But you really got to tap into would their coaching style fit? And I just don't think that in today's landscape, it's going to take somebody younger with patience and that can really develop people. And I just don't see that happening. I don't see that with Saban. I don't see that with Gruden. And it's just Arkansas, we're stuck on nostalgia. And we're stuck on the McFadden's. We're stuck on the 64. We're stuck on Mallet and Wilson. We haven't had really anything. And that is the reason why a name like Gruden sticks, because people's been talking about it since the red tie stuff or the plane trackers. That's all it is. When you deep dive into the decision, do you really want someone like that to be at the University of Arkansas? For me, it's a hard no.
And you're going to have, more fans split in other ways too. Whether it's how he left Oakland, and all that happened afterwards. There's a different type of player, that's in the NFL versus that's in college. Mm-hmm. We've seen it. And we've seen a lot more sense of entitlement year after year with the college players when it comes to NIL, now rev sharing, and just the way that they're brought up. And a lot of that is the coaches and family and friends around them that don't tell them no, that have, entitled them, that they're yes man to these players. Quite honestly, I think John Gruden would be way too hard on them. Yes, you'd get a lot of players, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but you'd have players that aren't used to it and wouldn't want to deal with it, wouldn't want to put up with it. I think it would be more of a media circus than anything. And I kind of look at almost what's going on in North Carolina. So you get Bill Belichick. And it's one of those that, of course, we haven't seen his team take the field in a game. We have no idea what's going to turn out. But just the media circus that has happened at Chapel Hill since he's came there. And yes, a lot of that has to do with his 20-something-year-old girlfriend. But at the same time, we don't know if he's going to be able to translate into college football. And, going to Saban, he left due to NIL and how things were.
Exactly.
His wife has been on, they've said that she, I go back to the cookout that he talked about when they had players over, and his wife looked at him and said, they don't need us because of the money side of things. Uh-huh. And I just think that you've got two coaches here that, number one, aren't going to come to Fayetteville. And number two, I think that they are past the current day of college football.
Yeah. And the one thing, I guess, this is what I really want to see how this part plays out. How does the true GM part of this whole thing work out? Is it going to be where you can truly, truly be hands off, let your GM and do work? And I really want to see how much this is the last dangling glimmer of hope I have for Sam Pittman, because one, there's no more excuses. You're in year 6, but I want to see now that you don't have any of this stress of the recruiting and NIL and all this. You have a GM. You've stated how much easier this man has made your job. So with that being said, if that starts to benefit and really pay dividends for these coaches, I could possibly see a Gruden come back. If you could truly just coach like you can in the NFL and you have agents and do all that stuff, then yes, possible. I just think that there's no way around it. I don't care how much you want to money cap. You're still going to have to worry about boosters and paying players and rev share and all that. That's just my opinion on it. But that one, I guess, benefit of the doubt is if a GM can really come in here and head the program, really put all his effort into it, then I could possibly see a coach that was against it coming back and really making a difference. Because you look at Saban, you look at someone like Gruden, they got out of it because it was too stressful. There was so much on their plate. Let's see what happens when some of that load is taken off, and would that entice them to come back?
Well, it makes you wonder too, do boosters see what we see? And And when I say that, I mean like, the John Gruden unboxing of the Arkansas goods. And I mean, I went back and rewatched it the other day. It's a good watch. I mean, just listening to him go down, history row of Arkansas and spouting off all these names and records, this, that, and the other. Do they look at these things and wonder, hey, could we? Maybe they do. I personally think that when the change comes, when that time happens, I think they already know who they want.
Yeah.
And I think that they'll have checkbook in hand when that time comes. There's obviously already speculation, but the fact remains, Sam Pittman still has a season ahead of him. This team still has a lot to prove. With the AP poll coming out today, preseason, others receiving votes, Arkansas wasn't one of those, which I didn't really, expect them to. I think I was more shocked by OU being ranked like 18th or something like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Arkansas's got a lot to prove, and it's going to be a game by game. And at the same time, Sam Pittman and this team has to keep the outside noise out. Keep it out of the locker room. Keep it out of your practices. You've got a job at hand, and you can't let people like us get to you, even though we do sometimes.
Well, and another factor, with John, his dad coaching at Arkansas, it'll hit you talk about the rivalries and you go way back to the Texas days. You're hitting that fan base of, they remember his dad. They remember the story of, John talking about he was playing there and on the sidelines and stuff. It brings back that old Southwest Conference days, but that's all it is. Again, it's nostalgia. And the only reason why, when you look at nostalgia and what somebody has done at another school, you look at Coach Cal, it was nostalgia because of what he's done at other schools, but he is producing NBA talent. I think Arkansas falls on that. We want somebody to come in who has those Arkansas ties, but you know what? There's somebody 5 hours south of you that coaches in a market where your heaviest market, where you need to truly tap into coaching there, and it's from Springdale and much younger.
And I think that's what you go after. When I say go after, I mean, I think you go after a younger coach that could stay here. And I think going after somebody in their 60s, early 70s is against what you need right now. I think that, like you mentioned earlier, you need somebody younger that connect with these players a little bit more. And yes, there's still some unprovenness on who you're speaking on, but at the same time, there's still a lot to prove. There's still a love for the state of Arkansas. And I don't want to say that Arkansas whiffed on Eli Drinkwitz because I can't stand him. But at the same time, it's like when you have a good coach that comes from the state, I feel like you should at least give them a look and give them a true, honest look.
Yeah, it's worked out when you've done it for players. You look at the teams that done really good for the football team. They've been stacked with Arkansas kids. Look at the basketball teams, the kids that have come from Fort Smith and Little Rock. So part of that is true, but the hunger, would that hunger be there? I think the bridge is passed. I know this to even be saying it, Eli, that bridge has been burnt. It's passed. Would Hunter Yurchek embrace somebody like Lashley? Would he bring somebody in like that when you talk about SMU, I know they have all this money, but Arkansas does too. If you were to bring somebody like that to Arkansas, people would be coming out of the woodwork like they were when the Edge first come out and they were needing donors, and Bobby Petrino come back and the Edge was talking about how many donations they got in the last 24 hours. And he's proven that he can make the college football playoff with SMU. What could he do if in a few years with SEC type players? What could he do from a recruiting standpoint of knowing in a rich market like SMU where money's not an option? Look what he's doing. Because now, look, you don't have any time to waste. This is another thing. You're having teams like Texas Tech, and I'm not saying it's going to pan out, but you got teams coming out of nowhere throwing out $25 million. What if they go on a tear and make it to the college football playoff? You had Ohio State do it last year. Now you got Texas Tech coming from out of left field, spending all this money, and Arkansas sitting on, well, this rev share is going to save us. This $16 million is going to help us compete in the SEC. That is $9 million short of what reported Texas Tech is doing for their football team, and they're doing it for all sports.
Mhm.
They're not just doing it for, they're not giving $28 to a women's golf player.
When I look at it like this, though, that 25 mil that they've reported spending, that's before the rev sharing. So then let's add another 20, whatever they're going to take of their 20.5 million on top of that. So if Arkansas is sitting here in the NIL world, and this is just a ballpark figure because I don't look it up, I don't have any idea. But if you're saying that you spent, let's say, $8 million, the football team got $8 million in NIL, and that's probably an undershot. I have no clue. Let's round up to 10 just to make it a whole number. And then you want to add the 20.5, but you want to bring it down to, we'll say, 16. So you're at 26 million. We haven't even added in rev sharing to Texas Tech.
Yeah.
So you're short another 10, $15 million to this team out there. And I'm not saying you need to go spend that money because I think it's ridiculous. But at the same time, this is what teams are doing. So to sit here and say, oh, we'll start getting the more money when Pittman's gone or when this team starts winning or when this or when that. Would you, though? Because then I feel like, in the same respect, say this team last year, this season, whatever, say you put together a few 8-9 win seasons and Sam Pittman wasn't on the brink. He wasn't on the hot seat. Would you be getting more money then? Or would you be saying, well, we did it without it, so why do we need it now? I mean, you'd be talking out of both sides of your mouth. And I just feel like it's a lose-lose situation in that sense. So we've heard before that, hey, money will come when there's a coaching change. Okay, so then when that happens and the money doesn't come, then what? Then can we finally look and point the finger at the AD? Because I know some of us are. But at the same time, it's like what has to change? Because we've changed everything but up until this point.
It's going to take boosters. The Hunter Yurachek publicly come out and said Walmart and Tyson are not going to save your football program. You're going to have to go out and get somebody who boosters are willing to, one, bring in, give him the money, and then I'm going to give him the tools to succeed. That's what it's going to take. Hunter Yurachek's not going to do it unless he is forced by hand. If it comes down to, well, your job's on the line, because he sure didn't take a pay cut to help these other staff members. He's not taking a pay cut. And, he's got Walmart and Tyson on the football field, but he doesn't want to use any of that money for the football program. So, and he's been about this raffle, hey, look at this raffle. Look what it's done for this and that. Well, I mean, that's a drop in the bucket of what it could have been. You're always doing enough to sit there and beat your chest like you've done something when, yes, it was great. That one time it was great that they, out of the 2 times they did it, that first one was great. $100,000 to a fan and whatnot. But it's going to the foundation. It's not even going to NIL. So you're sitting here farting in the wind. You're sitting there, you're bragging about what you did when the other option could have helped everybody. And before we go to break, my biggest thing is I want all athletics to be doing well. You get your football program to where you have boosters and people coming in funding your football program. That rev share could be building everything else around you to where nonstop Arkansas athletics, we seen in 21, got a glimpse of what it could be like with the softball program, the volleyball program, soccer program, football, basketball, baseball. You have all these, and at one time women's basketball. You could be what Texas Tech is trying to do. And I'm telling you, if they're throwing money at softball and they're throwing money at football and this works, you don't think they're going to start spreading the wealth? They're going to fund their whole football team off this 20 whatever million they're spending, and that rev share is going to go to every other program. Mm-hmm. So you might be the first to do it. It's almost like what they get on to people about the sources. You might be the first, but you better do it right. And Arkansas was the first to have a collective, but they sure didn't do it right.
No, other schools are laying the blueprint for what needs to be done. Just like we talked about the college football playoff. we saw last year that, 10 wins was essentially your blueprint to get in. And here we are in the NIL, the rev share, the money world of all this. Ohio State, Texas Tech, and others following suit because Texas isn't far behind. Other schools aren't far behind. They're laying the blueprint for what has to be done in college football to succeed.
Yeah. Well, again, I've said this many a times. I mean, this is going to be a very important year for the head coach. It's going to be a very important year for the athletic director, because if they do win 6-7 games and he still wants to ride or die with this guy and there's no progress, then his seat's going to be getting hotter. And we all know, if there's rumors going around about Lashley or whoever, you know he is. This is no disrespect to SMU. I don't see him coaching at SMU forever. He's going to build that program, and then you don't think if somebody else came in at let's just say Heupel doesn't work out at Tennessee, or Napier doesn't, you don't think he wouldn't jump at Florida? You don't think he would jump at Tennessee? And then guess what? You're going to be sitting there with another Eli Drinkowitz, looking across at him at the sideline as he beats you every single year, because you want to stay with where you're at. You don't want to make this thing better. You want that money, the revenue to come in, but you don't want to make the product on your field better. So, I mean, that's, I know I get hot when it comes to talking. It's just frustrating because you're supposed to be leading the charge for all this. You're supposed to be embracing the hog, but it's got grease all over it.
100%.
So, but we're going to take a quick commercial break. After the break, we'll be joined by our former colleague, Kyle Sutherland, publisher of Hawg Beat. We'll get his comments and thoughts of what he's seen so far from fall camp and his expectations for this season. We'll be right back after the break. Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company. Located at 201 South 1st Street in beautiful downtown Ozark, our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials is sure to have everything you need, whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck. Plus, our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Mentor's Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today and let's build something amazing together. Are you looking to take your career to the next level? Look no further than ATU Ozark Campus. As a 2-year satellite campus of Arkansas Tech University, we're dedicated to a quality workforce education, industry partnerships for in-demand jobs, and tailored paths for success. Our programs are led by industry professionals. Whether it's a certificate or you're aiming for a graduate degree, ATU Ozark has you covered. Visit our website at www.atu.edu/Ozark or contact us at 479-667-2117. Your future begins here. Welcome to Ozark Area Chamber of Commerce, where our mission is simple: encourage, promote, and aid an enduring environment of shared economic opportunity and civic development for the Ozark, Arkansas area. Whether you're a local business owner or a resident, we've got something for you. Shop our unique local businesses, explore the beauty of Ozark, and savor local flavors and find cozy accommodations. Join us in building a stronger community. And to learn more, contact us at 479-667-2525. Remember, together we thrive. And want to welcome you back to the Hawg Talk podcast. Now we're joined via the Meadows Lumber Hotline, former co-host of the Hawg Talk podcast, now publisher of Hawg Beat, Kyle Sutherland. Man, appreciate you for coming on. It's good seeing your face again.
Man, it is great to be here. Gosh, I think it's been, obviously we were talking high school sports the last time I was on, but gosh, it's probably been a year and a half or so. Adam, I don't know. I think you had maybe just taken over at that time.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
So talk about that. Recently became the now we both redheads. So I mean, have you been called the Red Rifle yet?
No. I mean, I have been plenty of times, but no, not in this case. But it happened really kind of fast, Porter. To be, I think you and I have maybe kind of texted about it a little bit, but really, I was just sitting at my kitchen table having a snack one day, and I get a text from the former rivals. Of course, now On3 is bottom, and we've merged as of July 1st. But the guy that was the onboarding for rivals at that time, he reached out to me and said, hey, we've got an opportunity that's opening, and I had 2 or 3 different interviews, and it really just was something I love. Obviously, high school sports will always kind of be my niche. That's what's always had my heart. That's obviously where I really got my start, along with the Hawg Talk. But, this was just obviously something I couldn't turn down. Ultimately, I wanted to get back to covering the Razorbacks again. And it happened really quick, but I'm very blessed to be at this position. I guess I've been at it almost 3.5 months now.
What's the biggest change for you in covering Arkansas now?
There's not a ton of it. I would say the biggest change, actually, it's easier doing this than it was high school. And what I mean by that is it's still hard, obviously very long job, long days and all those things. But now I only cover one team as opposed to hundreds. And I can Google stats. I can text an SID if I need something, as opposed to text. And I had so many great coaches that were incredible to me and still are. But it's a lot easier when you can just Google something as opposed to wait an hour or so for stuff. So that's probably the biggest change. But yeah, as far as covering Arkansas, it's a lot of similar. Of course, when I was with the Hawg Talk, I didn't really do a whole lot of written stuff. We did a little stories here and there other than the podcast, but a lot of it for the most part is still pretty much the same.
Well, now you don't have, the why didn't you rank my kid, or, having this team ranked.
Now it's why is my kid not ranked? And I'm like, I have zero control. All I do is I report on those rankings.
Yeah, there you go. I know that's got to be a breath of fresh air, not having the comment section filled with all those comments. But, coming into this fall camp, I know this is probably, I don't remember, since I've done the podcast, when there's more questions coming into a season when it comes from a player standpoint. Yes, let's talk about Braylon Russell and Taylor Green, but outside of that, Nick Story and Cam Ball. But really coming in, has this been one of the biggest surprises when it comes to just how much unknown is for this Arkansas Razorback team?
I think so, and I think there's probably been more questions. And look, I call this, you can call it talking season, or I call it take a grain of salt season. That's one of the ways that it be, just because it's not. You see some good things. Like, look, we know Mike Washington has looked really good in practice. We know that Justice Boone on the defensive side of the ball, the coaches really like him. He's really stepped up. Andrew Harris at linebacker. But offense, I feel pretty good. First off, you've got Bobby Petrino coming back, and you've got a second-year quarterback in Taylor Green. And we found out by him and Ben Souders that he was really hurt last year. I wrote about that yesterday on hogbeat.com, just about his injury and of course, the virtual reality he's using now. I feel like the offense is going to be okay. Braylon Russell, I've covered Braylon since his sophomore year of high school. And that's one of the things that I have said was if he just – and I like Braylon. Braylon's a good kid. He's gotten a bad rep about a lot of things. And I know that, look, there's plenty of reason to hold him accountable because of how everything has turned out. But I really appreciated what Colby Smith had to say in the press conference about how they are holding him accountable. But I think he's about as focused as I've ever seen him, guys. Like I said, I first talked to him when he was a 10th grader, and he has just made so many strides since then. I think he really has matured. But that's kind of a long-winded way of saying I think the offense, for the most part, Might take a few games to get, which you better figure it out soon, because especially by the second game, you're going to have a really hungry Arkansas State team before you head to Ole Miss. But defensively, guys, there's so many questions. The pass defense was dead last in the SEC last year, 111th in the country. I like Xavier Sori. I like linebacker. I think that's probably going to be, for the most part, okay. I like Xavier. I like Steven Dix. But other than on the defensive line, look, you feel pretty decent about Quincy Rhodes. You like what you're hearing about Justice Boone, some of these other guys. But, David Oak, they expected him to do a lot coming from Abilene Christian. Haven't really heard a whole lot about him. There's still time, but you haven't heard much. So other than a healthy Cam Ball and maybe a few of those linebackers or a couple of those linebackers, you just don't really know what you have on defense.
Going back to the offense, you brought up year two, Bobby and Talon. One big question I think a lot of us have is, yes, you have Bobby and Talon year two, but you've basically got year one with wide receivers, a whole new wide receiver core. Who has stood out? Because, Raylan Sharp has came out and said he feels like they have the best wide receiver room in the country, which I would hope that they feel that way. But is there anybody that's standing out? I know we've talked about Antonio Jordan potentially being a future star, maybe not this season, but a future star. Is there anybody that's standing out to you in the wide receiver room?
Raylan's the one that you've been hearing a lot about. Omega Blake is another one that you feel really confident about. Guys, I didn't realize until we talked. So we try to keep things, it doesn't always end up like this, but whichever position coach we get that day, you try to write stories on those guys. And that's what mine was on Omega Blake. We had Riley McFerrin wrote Raylan Sharp, and I think we did one or two others. But I didn't realize he was second in the country in yards per catch. So that you like that really, and that's one of the things that Coach Fouch, the receivers coach, talked about, was they weren't really looking for that number one guy necessarily. If they find it, great. But they weren't really expecting an Andrew Armstrong type deal where he's your go-to guy. They want multiple guys in this offense. So I think probably Omega Blake, other than if you're not talking about Raylan Sharp, that's the one you point to. Like you said, Antonio Jordan has really turned some head. Haven't heard much about him lately, but I think that's probably just because you heard so much about him in the beginning. I mean, every coach, defense or offense, it seems, has been asked about him. So Omega's up there. Monty Harrison is one that I don't know how much he's going to do as far as production, but he's really good for your room. Obviously, he's very mature. He knows what it's like to play professional sports. So I think that he's going to be really good for the room if he doesn't do anything as far as putting up numbers or anything like that. But the tight ends, I'm really interested to see. Of course, what will Jaden Platt do? Haven't really seen him a whole lot. Haven't really seen him as far as when he was at Texas A&M, and Rohan Jones, all the athleticism in the world. So I'm really excited about that. But as far as receiver, I would probably say, other than Raylan, you're probably talking about Omega Blake the most.
Biggest question I have coming from Talon Green. I mean, we know his athleticism, but this even goes back to when KJ was here. Finding them, getting multiple receivers. You look at Treylon Burks, he was the star. Then you had Andrew Armstrong, one receiver. I mean, do you think from y'all's vibes and what y'all been able to see, biggest question mark is finding multiple receivers? Because look at Tesla, what he's able to do. Satania, Armstrong, but only one person seems to kind of stand out in this season. How much of a growth has that been, him checking down, looking at receivers? And because that's going to be a big test. You're talking about, from what you said from the defensive side, that they're going to have to rely on this offense to really carry them. Can he find multiple receivers, really get more guys open and throw to them?
Well, from what we've seen, and I got to give a lot of love to my managing editor, Daniel Fair. He's been at every practice. He did. Now, of course, couldn't go to the scrimmage, but did a lot of the stuff for that press conference. All those clips we post, he puts those up. So he's seen a lot of Talon Green back to last year and then this fall camp. And that's one of the things that he has talked about that he really notices is just the chemistry. Now, again, I can't say enough, take it with a grain of salt. It's against air and all those different things in a lot of cases, but it just really seems like he's got some great chemistry with these guys. And that's why you feel like if you had, let's say that you had Andrew Armstrong back, but you're replacing a quarterback, you wouldn't feel near as good about that as if you have your quarterback back and then you have to figure everything else out. You feel pretty good about center, to the left. All that whole left side, you feel pretty good about that. Then the right side of the offensive line has some questions. But it's really just about how, of course, all that comes together. Last year, you could put some of Taylor's mistakes on the offensive line, some of that on him. But I think as far as just dispersing the ball around to receivers, it really seems like he's got an extremely good chemistry. You got to think that probably in the back of some of these, and I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, it's just from what we know now, probably some of those receivers last year were like, why in the world is Tesla not getting the ball more, especially with what we're seeing with Detroit. So I don't know that you'll have it, and I'm completely speculating that, but that's something that I don't think – I'm making that point because I don't think you're going to have that in that room this year. I think Talon has a really good connection with multiple receivers, if not all of them.
Do you see Mike Washington taking over the role that Jaquindon Jackson had? And that's no shot at Braylon Russell by any means. It's just, do you see him potentially getting that 250 carries on the season, or do you think it'll be split more?
If the season starts, so Colby Smith, he talked about the other day, and we saw this a good bit last year, 3 or 4. They want to use at least 3 running backs in a game. The 3 running backs that they had in the room were Braylon, Mike Wash, and Rodney Hill. So obviously if the season started today, I mean, those would be your 3 guys. And Mike Wash is, by all accounts, has been pretty much the one that they have been raving about. So I guess I would imagine he'd get the start. But I think too, this is struck a fire under Braylon, and that's the thing. If Braylon stays motivated, that's something else that's not talked about either, guys. He's been hurt, whether it was long term or for a few games, literally every season, to my knowledge, since his junior year of high school. Never played a single, or maybe played 1 or 2 games for Benton during his 2-year career there healthy. So if he stays healthy, keeps his head on straight, and not worries about anything outside noise, just worries about playing the game, whether it's a 1-2 combination with Mike Wash and then Braylon and then bringing Rodney in certain situations, they're going to be in a really good spot, because that's one of the things that they talked about was just the competition within that running back room. And if you, I mean, and I can't say this enough, I mean, I have seen what Braylon Russell can do at his best. And we saw it in the Tennessee game last year, the Mississippi State. And when he is hungry and when he really wants it, he can be something special. And so, yes, to answer your question, I think Mike Wash is the guy right now, if the season were to start today. But Braylon and he could be a really dangerous 1-2 punch. And Rodney Hill, if he comes along too, no telling what he could do.
Well, and I don't know if he kind of meant to say this or he was saying it subliminal or what, but he was, I believe it was the offensive coordinator or whatever, was talking about the lackluster spring that Russell has had. So that kind of caught me by surprise, because you really don't hear anything negative. I think it was the running backs coach that had said that. But did that strike you as like, okay, he had a lackluster spring? Is there any worries? I mean, we're talking about this fire, but what are your mindset going into making sure that fire stays there? Because we know in this day and age of NIL, transfer portal, anything, it doesn't seem like it takes much to get these kids to turn off that switch.
No doubt. And what I got out of what Coach Smith had said, now this is just my interpretation, I feel like, especially after that spring where he was disappointing, I feel like they probably sat him down and said, look, here's the deal, man. You decommitted, you came back, you signed, you hit the portal twice, you just had a really crappy spring. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say that. Crappy spring. Again, I'm not quoting anybody. This is what I interpreted. But you had a really crappy spring, and you got to put up or shut up. Like, it is time. You have got to figure out, you're a grown man now. You're making money. You're in big boy SEC football. Like, you have got to get your stuff figured out. And again, Braylon's a good kid, guys. I can't, he's gotten a lot of negative publicity, but he's always been nothing but great to me in the times that I've interviewed him or anything like that. And I've mostly always heard great things about him. But, that's what I can't go back to enough. He has just got to stay motivated on football, obviously school as well, but he's got to stay worried about that. Not because that's the thing, for a while, he was the dude at Benton, and he was pretty much, the top back that was coming in at Arkansas. I mean, I know they signed Jaquindon out of the portal, but as far as high school, so, he comes in, and now that he's got some guys that are really, hey, you're not the best in the room. Maybe some days you are, but other days you're not. And so it was really just a put up or shut up type moment for him. And that's what I feel like the conversation that they had with him was.
We've all had plenty of conversations when it comes to the hot seat, if you will, for Sam Pittman. Is there any sense of that from inside or around the team, or is that just all outside noise?
I think most of it is that, like, when he says that, I genuinely, and we know Pittman is pretty honest, sometimes too honest. I think that is mostly outside noise. I do, guys, feel like there's pressure from them because, look, I mean, I know that there's a lot of things that you just maybe scratch your head at or whatever the case may be, but like, you know, nobody wants to win more than this team, and plenty of people within the university. But the reality of it is that you have to absolutely win. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. I mean, that's obviously the name of the game. That's the duh statement of the week or year, whatever. But I think that most of that is probably just for preseason lists and things like that. But if you start off 2-2, that's when we really start having. If you're 3-1 after Memphis, you're in a pretty good position. Now, obviously, I have said this on so many radio hits, like, you've got to win that Ole Miss game. It's so important to start not just 1-0 in the SEC, but 1-0 in the SEC on the road. Then you got that chance to start 4-0, and then you're 4-0 once you welcome Notre Dame to town. So really, I think that this conversation needs to get serious after about the first quarter of the season to kind of see where they're at and see how they've done against those first 4 games. But there's definitely pressure on. I don't know that I would necessarily call it a hot seat from as far as the administration is concerned and things like that. But there is definitely pressure to win. A little bit less since he's coming off of a bowl victory.
So would you say that there's a magic number for the Razorbacks
for Sam to keep his job?
What do you, not to put you on the spot,
sure,
but if you was to put a magic number on this season, like in baseball, what is Arkansas's magic number for Sam Pittman to keep his job?
If they don't make a bowl, guys, I don't see how he survives. And frankly, I mean, look, I met Sam for the first. I know, we take personal accounts out of this whole deal, but I met Sam for the first time at SEC Media Days. Look, I'm rooting for the guy personally. From personal. Otherwise, I keep a totally neutral opinion. But he genuinely does love this state. He wants to win. I have no doubt about that. But that's the thing. A lot of people, every coach wants to win. Mm-hmm. But right now, it's just in that position where, I mean, you want to shoot higher than the bowl game, but I don't see them firing him. Now, maybe it comes to a point if, like, let's say that you start off, let's go back to that 4-0 or 3-1, whatever. You have a really good first half of the season, but then you don't do so well because, in back half, that whole schedule is really tough. But the back half, my word, and the SEC play. So you go, I don't know, 2-4 in the last 6 games. Then that's when you also had that conversation. Okay, were you getting blown out in those games? Were you coming down? Because that's the thing too. Think about how much different things would be if they would have won a couple of those close games. Where would this conversation be then? So I think with Sam, it's really just one of those. He will probably be, and again, just my personal opinion. I think if he gets the bowl, if he gets back to a bowl game, at least 6 wins, he probably will stay, or at least they won't fire him in that case. But you get less than 6 wins, man, they're going to have some tough conversations then.
Is there a particular game that you see on the schedule that could swing the season either way for Arkansas?
Arkansas State's definitely there just because it's not in Fayetteville. Sam Pittman straight up said, flat out, he does not want to play. Now, he didn't say anything about this year particularly, but as far as the future, he said he has no interest in playing this game outside of Fayetteville. Said that point blank at SEC Media Days. So how motivated is Arkansas going to be compared to Arkansas State? Arkansas State, you look at guys like Jaquez Cross, the star running back, kick returner / punt returner for Arkansas State from Fordyce, covered Jaquez very closely. He could have gone to big-time college football had he would have played defense. You don't think he feels shafted by the Razorbacks and he wants to go run for 200 yards on them? And some of these other guys, maybe Arkansas kids that are starting, that doesn't that might feel shafted as well. So that one for sure. But Ole Miss, to me, that's the massive, because again, 1-0 in the SEC and you get 1-0 on the road.
Piggybacking off what you just said, do you think that that's a red flag enough as it is that we're even having the conversation that the Arkansas State game is a must win and a very important win on the season?
I definitely do, just because that one's obviously, because look, the Arkansas, how many times has it been said, Arkansas doesn't have anything to gain. Arkansas State has everything too. But look, I've heard on good authority that whenever in 1987, when they're playing Arkansas State in the NIT in basketball, I have on good authority from a very good source, Frank Broyles essentially had the pink slip in his hand at halftime. And they were down, I think they were down by as much as 21 at one point. So I'm not saying that would be the case this year. I don't know, that we'll kind of see how things go when all that comes about. My point is, when you play Arkansas State, since it doesn't happen, I mean, literally, it might just end up happening once all time. That is a big game, kind of regardless of whether the fans are juiced up about it or whatever. But it definitely is a little interesting that we're talking about that being a swing game, essentially, as far as where the season could go.
I told Adam, if Arkansas loses to Arkansas State, we would have another Jack Crow situation. He would not make it out. He would be on the bus from Little Rock to Hot Springs. You can't. That would be. And I guess you can even put your input on this. Arkansas loses to Arkansas State. To me, and I don't even think it would be close, most embarrassing loss in Razorback sports history, any sport.
If they lose to Arkansas State,
yes.
So I don't know. I wouldn't say it'd be the worst in school because Arkansas State's going to have it. Now, here's the thing, Porter. Historically, they don't play that great under Jones in the first half. So that's something to think about there. But on paper, this is a pretty talented team. I mean, again, you got Cross that's getting like some All-American preseason honors, all Sun Belt. Corey, you got one of the best receivers in the country, regardless of division, and Corey Rucker. Jalen Rayner, he's really good when he wants to be something. You got some talent on this team. But I would definitely say it would be up there with the most detrimental, just because it's probably only going to happen one time. And then after all these years, generations of people that have wanted this, and I'm on NEA radio pretty frequently in Jonesboro. And I got a lot of people that I know up in that area. And this game is extremely important to many up there because former players that played for state that didn't get a chance at the Razorbacks. So I do think that it would be pretty detrimental. I don't know that I would say it's the worst loss of all time. Again, just because on paper this is a fairly talented team, but it would be – Twitter would not be a place that would that maybe the players and coaches would want to take a peek at.
Hey, they made a DVD when the women beat Arkansas, and was the women NIT or something like that. They made a DVD, but I think that was all of that in when I say embarrassing because social media is involved. They would not, and this is from SEC, this is national, Arkansas State fan, but they would not be able to survive this. And I don't think they would be able to recoup from this until SEC play started with basketball season. That's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, no, it'd be tough. And I mean, that's the thing too, is if you lose that game, not only are you going to play, and I know that Ole Miss has a lot to replace too, but not only are you going to Ole Miss, a team that just absolutely thumped you last year, and will Arkansas State beat you? And of course, we're obviously speaking hypothetically here, but will Arkansas State beat you twice at that point? And once you go, and then the next week you got to make another trip across the Mississippi River to Memphis. So I mean, I know the Little Rock game is a quote unquote home, but you got 3 road trips in as many weeks, or 3 road trips in 4 weeks, whatever it is. So we'll find out a lot about this team early on.
SEC as a whole, who do you see coming out on top? Are we going to see Texas, Georgia, or what's it going to be in your eyes?
My dark horse is Alabama. I think because that's what's crazy is the season Alabama had last year. Like if Arkansas had that kind of season right now, we would just be praise be. But you should with what they win 9 games, I believe it was. So I think they're my dark horse, but man, I'll tell you, I'm going to go with LSU. I think LSU. I know that Brian Kelly still he had one of the greatest offenses a couple of years ago, and if Nuss stays healthy, which that's a big if. What is it? It's year 2 under Blake Baker. I've always liked him. I think LSU could come out on top. I would say my top 3 right now, with Alabama playing the sleeper role, would be Alabama in no particular order, Georgia, and LSU. I like Texas. I like that defense, but I'd probably put them at 4 right now, 3 at most. I still don't. There's a lot of Arch hype, and I think that Arch is going to be pretty good, but I don't know. I feel like Texas is going to be really good again this year, but I'm still going to go with those three, at least for the preseason hype.
Outside of week one, I'm with you on LSU. Outside of week one.
Yeah.
Week one, no.
Honestly, if they win week one, you're going to be like, oh, crap, is this detrimental to them? Because they're not used to – usually they're in the playoff contention at least pretty deep into the season after they get beaten week one or week 0. Or I guess, that's week 1. But, no, man, it's – I know that the automatic and rightfully so, Georgia and Texas are the first 2 picks right off the bat, but I still think that Alabama and LSU can make some big noise.
I asked Chris Phillips this a couple weeks ago when we had him on, and I will ask you, just from your perspective, if a team outside of the SEC wins a national championship this year, what do you think? How much of a frenzy you think the SEC fan base would be in?
That's going to be bad. Paul Feinbaum's already said he's leaving the country. So, I mean, when the mouth of the South says that he's leaving, that's big time. Yeah, that's going to be so. Man, three years in a row. When's the last time that happened? Oh, it's
well, I think what they said 2007, wasn't it? When the last time that, or what was it? When Oregon was it Oregon and not Oregon, but
oh no, it's so the last time back to back was so 04 was USC and then Texas. 04, 05 USC and Texas. I think LSU won it in 03. So you got to go back to when like Miami, probably back in the 90s and early 2000s, where there was 3 years in a row. So that has not happened in many college football fans' lifetime, especially the young ones, obviously. So we haven't really seen that. Actually, we haven't seen 3 in a row in the 21st century. So talk about Twitter being hot, man. Whew, that'll be wild times on social media if that happens.
Well, Kyle, man, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Before you head out, man, tell everybody where they can find y'all, any promos you got going on for football season, what stores you got working on. Just kind of give yourself a plug before we head out.
Yeah, so just head over to hawgbeat.com, HAWG beat.com. And right now you can actually sign it. So it's $1 for your first week, and then it does charge you the annual price, but that includes a year of the athletic. So you get a year of the athletic, Rivals, which is because now On3 owns Rivals. That's anything recruiting news and all that good stuff, as well as all the On3 content. So Andy Staples, Brett McMurphy, all those, Josh Pate, recently partnered with Josh Pate. That was a big one. Ari Wasserman, Ross, was it Ross, or somebody?
Ross Dellinger.
Ross Dellinger. I couldn't remember which one it was. I've seen
McMurphy. Didn't they get McMurphy too?
McMurphy, he actually signed. I met him at SEC Media Days. Really cool guy. He actually signed as of the 1st, whenever they announced the On3 Rivals merger was announced in April, right before I came on. But then whenever they became official on the 1st, it was announced. But yeah, it's right now $1. You get Rivals, On3, the Athletic, all for that price. I think it's annually $120, but it's $1 for your first week. And then we've got coverage all day, pretty much every day during fall camp. We've got on our YouTube channel, just type in Hawg Beat and you can watch practice clips, all the press conferences. We'll have that throughout each sports year for football, basketball, and baseball. So, you can find us there and got all kinds of stuff. And on our premium board, we talk baseball, basketball, football year round. So a lot of really good conversations from a great community on there.
Well, again, man, it's always awesome to have you on. I know we'll have you on again sometime during the season and get some mid-season thoughts, or everything hits the fan. Talking about who might be lined up next year for the Razorbacks.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Yes, sir. Have a good one. And that was Kyle Sutherland, publisher of Hawg Beat. Always good having him come on, and I know it's. Now that he's really reporting and covering Arkansas, he's seeing things from a different lens. And, it was very, very interesting hearing him talk about the Arkansas State game. It's one of those that, so you're saying there's a chance.
I think it's one of those that, like, a lot of fans, including us, like, we kind of lightly joke about, like, yeah, well, if they lose, like, he's not going to come back. We say that, like, just kind of under our breath a little bit, like, oh, that's not going to happen. But then in reality, it's like, what if it does? What if it does? I mean, because you never know what's going to happen. If we sit there and think it's not going to happen, then there's always that chance that we get embarrassed.
Yeah. And you could not recover, because here's the thing. It would come down to the fan base would be like, it's either him or you or both. And this is them, the fans talking to Sam Pittman. Cause you imagine losing that game, and then that's still your ride or die guy. This is the guy that's going to lead us to the promised land. I don't see a way he survives it. Maybe he survives it a couple of games or whatever, but I just don't see any way. And for the fact that they have a talented team, but just that thought of hearing it from somebody in the media that's saying that it's not as embarrassing as what we say it because Arkansas State has a good squad, to me is a huge red flag. And I think the level of what you see this game now is, instead of a laughable game, you kind of got to put that game on high alert now. You have to really look at it. It's not saying, again, Arkansas could very well win this game 45-0 or 45-24, but this is one of those games that if you sit there and let them keep that motivation, crazy things can happen later on.
100%. And we're getting closer and closer. We're at 19 days, I think, is that right? So sub 20 days, it'll be here tomorrow.
Yep. But before we head out, we'll give another shout out to FanDuel. And guys, you're like us, Saturdays are for the Hogs, Sunday are for the NFL. With FanDuel, you can bet like a pro, whether you're stacking a game parlay, college, or sweating a last-minute field goal. FanDuel puts the power in your hands with live odds, quick bets, easy cash outs. New customers even score bonus bets just for signing up. So if you call the Hogs or you're ride or die with your favorite NFL team, make every down count. Bet college, bet pro, bet FanDuel. Adam, you got anything else before we wrap it up?
No, sir.
All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for coming, or thank Kyle for coming on. Thank you, everybody, listening in, all of our sponsors, and we will catch you on Thursday.